The US-China rivalry is old news. The real story now is who's profiting from it. The Southeast Asian countries have found their niche in this. After Indonesia, it's Malaysia that is showing the world that it not only has to become a victim of the rivalry, but can even turn the rivalry into a win. And you know how we know that Malaysia's strategy is working? Because for the first time in 10 years, a US president is on his way to the island country.
President Trump will participate in a bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister of Malaysia in the afternoon, and then he will attend the ASEAN Leaders Working Dinner that evening.
The question is, why? I'm Ananya Datta. Let's get started. Malaysia has rooted its foreign policy in a rules-based order. While it's ideal on paper, it is also convenient when you're being pulled from both sides. If you see its foreign policy framework, friendly relations with all appears in almost every single segment. And this did not start with Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. It is certainly not expected to end with him. A look at the past 3 decades will reveal Kuala Lumpur's conscious decision to stay balanced. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange lost nearly 75% of its value. Malaysia could have turned to the IMF for a bailout package like its neighbors, but it did the exact opposite. It adopted currency control and let the government buy bad loans. At the same time, it did not burn any of the international bridges. It backed the Chiang Mai initiative, which then prompted currency swap arrangements between 13 countries in the region. If that's finance, Malaysia came with the same intentions during a twin crisis that became the sharpest foreign policy test for the country. The year 2014 was extremely tough on the country. MH370, a flight that started from Kuala Lumpur, was bound for Beijing, but it disappeared. With 227 passengers and 12 crew members on board, panic set in Kuala Lumpur. Without any blame game, Malaysia invited foreign investigators from China, Australia and the United States to join the search. The wreckage unfortunately was never found, but diplomacy stayed intact. Then just 4 months later, MH17 was shot down over Ukraine. Nearly 300 people lost their lives, including 43 Malaysians. The world was angry, pointing fingers at Russia-backed rebels. But Malaysia consciously resisted taking sides. It quietly worked with Kiev and Moscow, negotiating the handover of the black boxes and the repatriation of bodies. But this decades-long policy will be put to test this weekend. US President Donald Trump, who skipped the ASEAN summit in 2018, 2019 and 2020, has chosen to fly down to Kuala Lumpur this time. He's one of the many non-ASEAN leaders to do so. Newly sworn-in Japanese Prime Minister Sane Takaichi, Brazilian President Lula da Silva, and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa all will be in attendance. But more than the ASEAN summit, Trump is looking forward to a one-on-one meeting with Malaysian Prime Minister Ibrahim. The 19% US tariffs and China's export controls on rare earths are expected to be high on the agenda.
Malaysia has always been, pragmatic, despite its strong position on the Palestinian issue, and which is why it still maintains good relationship, not just with the US but other Western countries, allies with Israel, due to this pragmatism, I think.
And this is what brings Malaysia at the center of the superpower rivalry. The Southeast Asian country is deeply entwined with both the US and Chinese economies. The US has a large footprint in Malaysia's tech, oil and gas industries. So much so that Washington was Kuala Lumpur's top foreign investor and third largest trading partner last year. China, on the other hand, is equally important, if not more. It's a major purchaser of Malaysian electronics and palm oil. In investment, China was the third largest investor to the island country, and last year the number stood at $6.6 billion. It's also the #1 trading partner, a position, believe it, China has held for 16 consecutive years. Where this high-stakes diplomacy converges is this sea, something that acts both as an asset as well as a liability for Malaysia. The US and China are both holding separate drills with Malaysia in the name of maritime cooperation, But in reality, both are looking for a permanent ally in case war comes to sea.
此次联合演练，中马舰艇编队开展了联合搜救、联合护航、舰载直升机垂直补给等多个科目实兵演练，有效检验了双方前期训练成果，提升共同维护海上安全的能力。
And in our case, for the case of IPAC, IPAMS, and SELF, it's about forging a lasting and durable peace through strength and partnerships that matter.
Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's personal relations and what's often called telephone diplomacy have worked so far. But this weekend, everything will be put to test in one of the most sternest ways possible. You see, Trump speaks in deals in dollars, and China is one ship away from hostility. And Malaysia, it needs to do its balancing act without burning its own hand. That's all we have for this episode of Grey Zone. Let me know what you'll want to watch next time. Till then, I'm Ananya Datta. Thanks for watching.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry guards.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.